Hey guys, it's Andrew with Android Central here, and we have our hands on a particular device here, the G2, with the one with the buttons on the back there, and you'll notice there's also some Verizon 4G LTE branding and all of that good stuff. So this is the Verizon version. We're going to give it the full video review treatment and everything, so let's go take a look. Now, the Verizon version of the LG G2 isn't drastically different from the international and AT&T versions, but there are some differences, mainly in terms of branding and slight design differences. So you'll notice here on the back that the volume up, down, and power buttons and the camera pod have been redesigned to kind of this interesting brushed metal, not really metal kind of material. You still get an LED around the home button and kind of a big camera pod, and of course the buttons are on the back. That hasn't changed. Functionally, they're really no different. They do the same things, but just a little bit of difference. The back plate here is kind of, as you can tell from all the reflections, kind of a hyper reflective black material. When you view it straight on, it's black, but when it gets off axis, it kind of gets a blue color to it that's kind of interesting. There's a bit of a honeycomb kind of pattern very subtly in the back here, but it doesn't add any texture or anything. It's still extremely slick. Flipping around to the front, you see that second Verizon logo on the front there. Yes, it's kind of out of place. It's kind of weird looking, and you don't really get used to it. Other than that, though, when you come into the software, things are about the same on the Verizon and the AT&T version. The settings come by default in a list view rather than this tabbed view, but you know, as we just show there, that's easy enough to change. The other difference will be in the app drawer. There'll be some pre-installed Verizon things, you know, 10, 12, 15 apps or something like that in all. About 5 to 10 of them you'll want to disable or uninstall, but you do have that option, which is nice. Not all phones offer that. Going back around the sides of the hardware and everything, though, because those buttons are on the back, you get an extremely smooth exterior all the way around that is rather symmetrical as well, which is kind of interesting. We actually, more often than we'd like, ended up picking up the phone the wrong way because you kind of have the logo there and then the speaker there, but it's easy enough to flip back around, and you notice when we turn it on here with the knock or knock on, it turns on and off without having to use the buttons on the back, which is good because the buttons are actually rather inconvenient to use. When you hold the phone like this, my finger goes all the way across. I have kind of big hands, I guess, but my finger goes all the way across, and I have to kind of pull it back, and you have to hold on to the sides of the phone hard to be able to hit the power button, and it's kind of it's more hassle than it needs to be able to adjust the volume and things like that. Now, of course, when they do things like knock on, to be able to turn, let's see what I mean? It doesn't always work. It's a little inconvenient. The knock on, knock off, and whenever you play some audio, you'll get an audio slider here in the notification bar to clutter up the notification bar a little bit more, but to make it easier to turn up and down the volume. But the easiest way to turn up and down the volume would be to have the buttons on the side, and we still haven't really gotten over that that feeling. It just, no matter how long you use it, you just don't really get used to it, and you end up kind of flipping the phone back over to make sure you're hitting the right button, and it's just an extra step you don't want to have to take. Now, when it comes down to other software improvements for a device this large, we're looking at a 5.2-inch screen. They've added a few different things LG has in terms of working with the display to you can add one-handed operation. You can add things like the smart screen and smart videos so the screen doesn't turn off when you look at it. We've seen that from from Samsung previously, aspect ratio correction to help fix apps that don't fit into the aspect ratio properly. There's a whole one-handed operation section where you can slide the keyboard or the dial pad over to one side, or the lock screen can unlock on one side, the pattern or pin can be, which helps definitely, because you can see this is the standard launcher home screen. It's a grid of 5 icons wide and 6 high, including the dock. So it's really quite big, and you can even go wider in the dock as well with 6 wide. So it's definitely a bit of a reach to get across. Now the bezels definitely help with that, but it's still a big device that's really slick, so it can be tough to hold on to even with our big hands if you're not used to that sort of thing. So overall, the LG G2 is a really great device. It performs well in terms of battery life is solid, software performance is pretty good, camera performance is fantastic, but it's kind of wrapped up in this interesting shell with a poor choice of buttons and maybe not the best materials ever.